What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Champion Living Podcast, where we believe that consistency, perseverance, and not taking life too seriously are the keys to success. I'm Doug, the founder and owner and head coach of Champion Living Fitness. Each week, I'll be joined by my coaching staff with the vision of providing trustworthy information about fitness, nutrition, and mindset, and how this all applies to being a professional rodeo athlete, as well as people from all walks of life. Are you ready to become a champion? Let's go.
How we doing this morning, boys?
Good. It's been a good week. The weather, I mean, not to like small talk about the weather like everybody, but I mean it is crazy here. The low last night was in the mid 50s, and the high today is going to be like in the mid 70s.
Yeah, it's like California weather.
It is
Love it.
absolutely beautiful. It's going to be 90 tomorrow and 80% humidity and horrible, but the last couple days have been dream weather. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Dope. Love it. Fall is here. Fall is coming quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready for a little change, but also I'm kind of sad to see summer go. Kind of was here and gone. But with that being said, the best time of rodeo is starting now, and I'm fired up. I've been watching all those PNW rodeos, all Pacific Northwest, Kennewick. What's going on right now? Bremerton. There's pretty much any small town in the Pacific Northwest is having a rodeo at this point in time. But I've been watching Richie and Bennett and all these guys going, and it's so busy. Like, it's been busy, but it is getting exponentially busier. And we are really seeing the numbers have gone, not, I don't want to say the numbers have gone down in entries, but we're seeing those guys that are duking it out. Have you guys been watching any Cowboy Channel or anything like that last couple of nights or last week?
I haven't watched a lick of it unless you count what they post on Instagram.
Yeah. And Paul's been busy watching 8 Seconds, so
I've been watching 8 Seconds and trying to catch up on the PBR teams. So,
what's been going on in teams?
Dude, teams it's kind of growing into it. So like it's what the vision I think is happening now. Like the drama is like starting to write itself, and so like the main storyline right now is Carolina Cowboys. They're undefeated. They've got one tied game, so they're like 10-0-1 or 11-0-1 or something like that. But dude, like Cooper Davis and Sage Kimzey have ridden almost everything they've gotten on, and those are kind of like the real world case study of like doing things correctly, like resting your body up and training and taking care of your health and fitness, and then going and putting it to work, and it seems to be working pretty dang good for him. So yeah, just been kind of exciting stuff. I think one of the thing that I kind of gleaned from looking at the standings the other day is the teams that are in the top 5 right now are all teams that are like really heavy on culture, like building team culture and like having a training camp and like having like these bonding events, and like they're doing practice spins together. Like those guys are rising to the top, and not saying that the other teams like don't have some aspect of that, but like it's not the priority.
It's not the
like
same.
Yeah, the Cowboys and who else is? I should
Oklahoma.
this, those guys that are at the top, it's like the coaches at least have harped on like having this.
Well, they have
culture.
places for them to all come hang out too. So like JB's got Bucktown and Jerome's got his place. So those two teams have an incredible compound to go back to and to build that team and to build that culture that you're talking about. And
I think it's Kansas City's maybe second. Yeah, Kansas City second. That's the same thing. Like they all go to JW's house. Like
yes,
they eat dinner together. They train together. Like they get on bulls together. Like they're doing everything together. Nashville, Austin, and Missouri. So that rounds out the top 5. Like they're doing the dang thing, and it looks like it's paying off.
Yeah, it is in a big way. It's cool to see. And this is only year 3. So really it's happened pretty quick in the transition. And then you going back to talking about Cooper and Sage, they are the first time we've ever really seen these elite athletes take a big break from the volume of animals or competition that they're entering and seeing what happens after. right? Seeing if do you lose a step? Are you able to, rise to a new level? No one's ever known, but the majority of the talk or chatter, I'd say, is people are afraid of losing that step if they aren't getting on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're seeing the total opposite effect, which is what all of us have been saying for a long time now, that if someone was to do this, we thought at that elite level, it would be a game changer for their entire career. So I think this is freaking awesome to see these two
And they're
guys.
not spring chickens anymore either.
No,
Like they're 30
no.
years old,
Well,
and they've both been training for a while, like for a long time. Sage he had won world championships and stuff without necessarily training, but then when he did start training, like it seemed like he only got better. And then now having switched from pro rodeo and taken that volume down a bunch, man, like it just seems really, really in a good spot right now.
I'm convinced that it's not age that draws you out; it's volume.
Yeah, it's volume.
So we look
Exactly.
at guys like Casey Field. We don't really have a ton of guys to look to in the horse riding, but I look at guys like Casey that went to the last few years he rodeoed. I mean, he was older than your average. I don't know exactly his age when he retired, but he was, probably older than your average bareback rider if you take Will Lowe out of the field. And before he
He's still
retired,
in the field.
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. But if you
He's
take
the
him out of the
outlier, yeah.
average, if you
Yeah,
take
he's the
his, if
outlier.
you take him out of the average, then he was. But Casey went to 40, 45 rodeos a year, and so if that, right, and same thing we see. It's my hypothesis that if you draw down the level of bulls that you get on or bucking horses over the course of the year, you then extend years on your career, because it's not the years, it's the volume of injury and
Chris
opportunity
Ledoux
for
saying about that 40 years ago. It ain't the years, it's the miles.
It ain't the
It
years,
it,
it's the miles.
it literally, like
Truth.
the sport volume literally ages you. And so
Yep.
like if you can cut down on that volume and capitalize where it actually matters,
Yes.
success goes up.
Yes. And longevity.
Mm-hmm. I will say that for anybody listening, we're talking about masters of their craft, guys who have been doing this
Yes.
for a long time. This is not something we're saying for, I would say even less than like 6 or 7 years, probably. Like anywhere, if you haven't been roading up until that point, like this is not for you. You still need to put in the reps and master that. But there comes a point in time where you are at a level you no longer need to. I don't know how to explain it without sounding like a pansy. But you don't need to go get on things that aren't going to benefit you.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Your volume has to be high to shorten your learning curve at first.
Yes,
like you have to get the reps in.
Mm.
And then as you start to master the craft, like then you need to be more selective in where you're going.
Man, that's so good. Thinking about, if you only bench press once a month, it's going to take you years to get a good bench press, but if you bench press every day, not that I would recommend that, but if you bench press every day for that, like, man, a month in, you got some reps behind you. You're ready to rock and roll. Same thing for the bucking horse riding or bull riding. Getting on every day or as many times as you can is just really going to give you that edge. But just like you guys said, it's like you could get to that point of diminishing returns, though, as far as learning. Once you've mastered the craft, then it's like, okay, let's pull the volume back down and just focus on getting on the ones that matter.
The quality of reps being way better, right? And so, like, even at a practice sense, like, instead of getting on 10 to get the reps, it's like, go find, if this is an option or you have the resource to, you can go to a practice bin, pick the perfect one, and get so much more out of that one than you would the 10, because you're actually focusing on what you're doing. I'm going to relate it to me shooting the bow recently. I've been doing this, and dude, I it's so funny because it's me on the spur board. We are the same people as me shooting the bow. And I will get up there and I'll just go through the motions, and it's not going bad, but it's not going great. And I'm kind of sitting there going, what the heck are you doing? And every time you're not focusing, you're not paying attention. So every time I pull the bow back now, I have to tell myself, pay attention. And it's just doing my process. If I do A, B, and C, hold my bow with my knuckles forward, have a bend in this, and then just touch the string to the tip of my nose, and I get to control squeezing the trigger, it goes great. But I will get A, B, and perfect, and I'll get to see and go whack, And I'm like, why did you do that? That was so dumb. That felt so bad, And same thing on bucking horses. I'd get on something and be like, okay, focus on A, B, and C, A, B, and C. You do A, B, and perfect. C doesn't happen. You get flipped upside down and you hit the ground. You're like, what? You idiot. Like, all you had to do was C. Just focus on A, B, and C. But it's just the basics of doing that quality reps. It's the same thing as when we talk about the spur board again, but like these guys get on and do 100 reps and they're like, I'm getting on that spur board. I'm getting better. It's like, if you would have done 10 reps perfectly, we would have been way further ahead than that 100 reps. So it's really easy to get in that sequence of just, for lack of a better term, flinging arrows downrange, just doing it to do it. Yeah. Instead of purposefully and intentfully working on something. I know I went down a rabbit hole there. I don't even know where we were.
You're spot on though. You're spot on. That's how most fundamental sessions go that I've been a part of, that I go see, is you just get on and they're riding a spur board or, a drop barrel for 30, 40 seconds. They were fatigued at 15, and so now they're just going through the motions. And just like you said, they're not going to get a whole lot out of that.
Yep. And then, when we get to these advanced levels, that's why I was trying to connect this, is it'd be the same thing as getting on stock that's not adequate to help you. You're just wearing yourself out. You're checking off that another ride that is going to count towards the end of your career. And was it helpful? Did it move you forward? A lot of times it's a no. So watching these guys be really selective in what they're getting on, that's the cool thing about teams, is they can be selective, and the coaches are selecting bulls that are in their alley, in their wheelhouse. So it's a cool thing, man. I want to see it. I mean, we got a taste of it with the Rockin' Rodeo, but I want to see this go to all the other events, because seeing that for the horse riding would be really cool, and seeing what could happen with the possibility of a career being set up like that, right? We don't have that option right now as horse riders, but the PBR teams is definitely paving the path for all events in rodeo, I think, when it comes to less volume, more money, longer careers. Sky's the limit.
Yep.
Sky's the limit. So I got an Instagram message the other day from a trainer on the East Coast, and she trains, I may have talked about her the other day, but I can't remember her name. Yeah, she trains mostly soldiers, Marines, and she had a couple guys that were into rodeo and wanting to get into it. And one of the things she was like, I really noticed that these guys are super weak in their posterior chain, and their hamstrings, their legs, and their back. And she's asking me about her focus. 1 rep maxes are her go-to because of the kind of training that she does with other athletes. And she was kind of asking me what I thought about 1 rep maxes for rodeo athletes. And then we just kind of got in this whole rabbit hole of like, we got to get a foundation first. We have to figure out where this athlete is. Like, if you're seeing flat off in their evaluation that they're weak, 1 rep max probably isn't the best place to start. But that just got me thinking about lower body strength, and how much lower body strength is the foundation for your upper body strength. And Matt Hooks is the one that told me this years ago, but he's like, dude, you want a big upper body? Get your lower body strong, because your upper body cannot grow without your lower body being the foundation. So you see all these guys walking around, big old arms and big old chests and skinny chicken legs. That's as big as they're going to get. They could have gotten a lot bigger and stronger if they would have been growing those legs at the same time. And go ahead.
No, you can tell how I one of the things I do, not that I just walk around checking out dudes' butts, but you can tell how fast somebody is by the dump truck they got on them.
Yeah,
you know 100%. What I'm saying? You can tell how explosive, how athletic somebody is. I don't care how big your arms are, your shoulders, your traps, anything. If you got a dump truck, you can be athletic. You might not have learned how to use that, but if you're strong lower body, that's where the athleticism, speed, that motor comes in.
Yeah, the motor. That's exactly it. It's the engine for everything else.
Yep. Got to have a strong motor to have anything else. And so today I want to kind of break down some lower body strength training routines or suggestions that people can use. And I want to get into, obviously the details here. Why rodeo athletes should be focusing on their lower body, even though our goal is not to squat an animal or, kick an animal as far as we can. Well, actually, not as far, but as hard as we can. That's funny. But we're going to jump into that today and just talk about this. But, the importance of lower body strength in rodeo, I think, is pretty obvious from the explosive movements you have to do during each event to getting ready for. I think, and this is something when I was thinking about this, like timed events have to run more than one time usually in a day, or right? They have 2 runs in a perf. So having strong legs is only going to help you be more powerful and have that endurance to keep going on that next run or a re-ride or whatever it is, whatever event you're in. But having strong legs is crucial and critical for you being successful in the arena. And let's break this down right now. What's the first thing you guys think of lower body? What comes to mind? Speed, power, strength. Where do you start?
I'm gonna let Paul go, but he's
I
crickets
didn't know
over
what
there.
that cue meant. I thought you were
Well,
like
I
raising
was
your hand that
I
I'm
was
Oh, I
gonna
didn't
I
even
was gonna
see
let
it.
I was gonna let Paul have the first one, but I'll take it, seeing as how we're twinning today. I automatically just naturally my bias goes to, like, when I think about lower body, I think about strength, because that has to be the platform for being able to be explosive or powerful. And so I think about building strength in that lower body. Every rodeo event, it's not just rough stock. Being powerful and explosive will benefit you. I go to a lot of fair rodeos in the summertime, judge some, and there's a lot of, I see it especially in the breakaway roping, where the girls, they have to hold onto the horn to leave the box, and they're 2 strides out of the box before they can pick up their rope and start swinging. You're never going to be 1-9 by not swing. Those girls that are aggressive, they have the lower body strength to be able to pick their rope up as they're leaving the box, and they've already got a swing in as they come across the line, and then they're able to take one more and pop right there. So that just that explosiveness and power, obviously you can see how it would translate in the rough stock events, but it's also important whether it's barrel racing, whether it's breakaway roping, team roping. It's that strength and power is going to be very important for all rodeo events.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
love
and
that you brought that up in the girls events, especially because we see that a lot, and it makes in a timed event where hundredths of a second make the difference. You being able to control your positioning is huge, and a lot of us and a lot of athletes think about, okay, that's got to be my core, my upper body. Well, actually, it's your lower body is not strong enough to control that upper body and resist that power, right? Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
no, that's great. And like the girls' events, you said, like, how many times you watch barrel racing where we got these really high caliber horses that are super fast, and the girls on top of them are just along for the ride. Like they're not physically riding the horse. Like they're just trying to stay mounted. They come out of the turn, they're bouncing up out of the saddle, and then they have to it takes 2 steps for them to catch back up. They'd be way faster if they're riding through the turn and staying up with their horse when they're picking up speed and
I just
accelerating.
thought about this, and I was just having like some mental imagery when you were talking about that. But you could even see it when they get left behind in the corner or coming out of the box, legs come out, body
Yep.
comes back instantly. And so, yes, it may look like this is going backwards and that's the weak spot, but those legs coming up is my first sign that we have a big weakness in our lower body, and we cannot keep our legs down in those stirrups and resist that power going forward, right? So it's so
That
important to train that leg strength. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's where it starts. It starts with
Mhm.
you. I'm not a breakaway roper or tie down roper, or even a team roper, but that's where it would start. Looking at the biomechanics of the sport, is it would start with you driving through those stirrups, right? You're driving into those stirrups and leaning forward, and yes, core strength is important, but it all starts. You cannot conduct electricity unless you're grounded, and that having those feet planted firmly in the stirrups and having the strength to drive out over your horse is crucial.
That was a really good analogy.
Plus, Logan's
I'm
2
on it
for
this
2
week.
on good analogies
I
this
was gonna
week.
say that's the second one this week. Good for you. Good for you.
I'd be doing
Uh,
some thinking.
What about like calf roping? You're wrestling things. You have to dismount the horse. You have to change direction. Goat tying if you're in high school rodeo, college rodeo. Why would lower body strength be important for faster sprints or agility?
I mean, it's literally the mechanism that you need. Like it's pretty
I'm just
self-explanatory.
lofting one up
Yeah,
to you, Paul. Just
yeah.
knock it out of the park for us,
When it's
please.
when you have to get off that horse, you better have strong legs. Like you can't rely on your animal anymore. Now it's you in the ground doing the work. So I mean, that's like I said, I don't really know how to
Well, the
break that
bottom
down
line
any
in those
simpler than
events,
it
like
is.
speed is your best friend. You have
Yeah.
to be quick. And so giving yourself that advantage of building that strong foundation in your legs. So therefore you can go train that sprinting mechanism that you're going to need to be competitive and successful in the arena. It's only going to make you faster and stronger in the arena, handling the rope, handling the calf, handling the steer, whatever it is, setting your feet harder, keeping your feet down in the barrel racing or any of the roping events. It all goes hand in hand. And so you have you can't skip out on any of this when we're training lower body. You have to start with the foundation, like Logan was talking about with the strength. Then we start working in some of that power. And, power is applied differently than you'd think. We're not jumping as high as we can. We're actually using that power to resist another opposing force of power from the animal that we're riding. And then you've got to be able to have a strong lower body for quick sprints, successful changes of direction, fast changes of direction. And that's where, a lot of injury can happen in those, call them non-contact injuries, right? We dismount a horse, we run down the arena, and get in our sport, the ground is not equal. Is not a level playing field for,
It's tough.
Yeah,
so we have a lot of things they have to overcome. But the
Mhm.
next thing I want to get into after this is the balance and stability that can come with increasing your lower body strength. And that is going to help mitigate some of those non-contact injuries potentially. Let's see here. Logan, let's run down balance real quick.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think gets misunderstood by the general population more than anything else. And we think about balance training, and we think stand on a ball. And I mean, we see it by elite level athletes that are working with well-intentioned strength and conditioning coaches at an elite level within rodeo, where they have them doing things on a ball, or they're trying to work on balance. And while I'm not trying to completely take away all validity from that, if you really want to improve your balance, improve your strength. And
Mhm.
looking at the tendons and ligaments in the knees and the ankle and the hip, the things that happen when you get strong, especially as you start to move into more unilateral movements, say a split squat versus a back squat. Not that a back squat won't help your balance, because it will, but we start to work into some of those unilateral movements using one leg, and you can get heavy there. That's really going to improve your ability to maintain balance, whether you're dismounting your goat tying horse, or if you're on the back of a bucking bull.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Paul, were you gonna say something?
No, I mean, I was just like, this is the most common thing that comes up. Like, I mean, and it almost seems like a lot of it goes back. I mean, not all of it. So I'm not blaming JB because it's not JB's fault.
Here we go.
But like the in reality, like in all sports, the PT realm where they use instability training has bled over. And so like people think that they need to use it all the time. So it's not just rodeo or just bull riding, like where that's
You're right.
relevant. Like all sports misinterpret that and think that that's going to be the ticket for them. And it's not. Like we've already talked about, strength is kind of like the universal foundation for all of these other qualities that we want. We want balance, we want speed, we want quickness, we want to be reduce risk of injury. Strength is the foundation for all of those things. And so like when it comes to spending the time that's you're getting the most bang for your buck for, like you need to be investing in strength first, and then these other qualities, you still need to do other things to adapt these qualities. Like if you want to get faster, you got to run. Like you just got to sprint. You got to do it. But if you were capable of sprinting faster by having more strength, like you need to build up the capability first. You increase your capacity and then you go do the thing.
That's so good. Can I add one little thing? Not something we
Absolutely.
were planning on talking about, but if you're unfamiliar with working out or in the gym, when we use this word strength, we're not meaning gaining size.
No.
We're not meaning, getting yoked. What you can get stronger and actually not gain any weight. And it's just learning your body is tuning into that central nervous system, and it's gonna recruit more motor units. So there's definitely a difference. A lot of times I had this conversation at Odessa. I usually use lightweight and high reps because if I go heavy, I get big. Incorrect. False information that was popular 20, 30 years ago. So just because you're getting stronger does not mean that you're going to gain 20 pounds of muscle.
Absolutely. And it is all about how you set it up. That common thought about, I'll just do lightweight and more reps. Well, dude, you just introduced hypertrophy. So you are sending the signal to put on muscle, and you're like, I can't lift because I get big. I get big every time. Well, what were you doing? I was doing 60 reps per exercise. Well, Here's your sign. That is why, dude. I've been telling you guys how trash my body is. I do not know what's going on. I'm falling apart. I'm like taking all my joint stuff. I'm taking everything. Everything still hurts, and I'm thinking it's just
Turn
obviously
35 and it's just game over, huh?
game
Hey,
over,
what's it
dude.
called when like your wife is pregnant, but like you start to have the symptoms or whatever?
Is that
What's it?
real?
Sympathy.
Yeah, so like some sort of sympathy pregnancy.
If
That's what you're
that's
going
real,
through right now.
we're
That's what you're
definitely
going
not
through.
doing that again.
Yeah.
But I've just been keeping it light and doing a lot of tempo, and the weights have been really light. So today I had, what did I do? Oh no, yesterday I had a floor press, and I want to do horizontal press. I had done upper body. My shoulder's been killing me. I don't know what's going on, but I'm like, I know I need to move. I need to keep tension, but I don't need to stress it that much. I picked up a 20-pound dumbbell and I added a 3-second tempo on the way down, and I did 6 reps of each for 4 sets. And I did that with a single arm dead bug floor press. So I wanted to add in some core, some instability, some oblique sling. I wanted to get everything firing together, my full body, and not just isolating, because I can feel the disconnect from head to toe, if that makes sense. Like when I'm doing things, I'm like, things is not firing like they used to. And then I did a bottoms up incline press with a really light kettlebell. It was, I could hold that kettlebell and do it all day if I wanted to go up and down, but I had that tempo, and dude, by the end of it, everything is fried. And this morning I feel great because of the lesser weight, the less stress, but that time under tension, focusing on the intent of my movement. That was my goal, was to have a perfect rep each time. It wasn't to sweat, right? So it's the stability that comes with that lower body strength and working on these things is huge when it comes to performance in the arena, and pays off in so many different ways besides just the performance side. And that's where I want to jump into now, is the injury mitigation aspect is like my number one reason that I want people to strength train. Yes, I think a byproduct is that you get better at what you're doing. The performance side, like the bread and butter for me, is that you become bulletproof, you become durable when you get strong. And so let's start about knees and ankles, because those are like the top 2 things we deal with in rodeo, which is weird. But even in rough stock, man, knees and ankles always getting stepped on, twisted up, thrown off, and leg goes out. I'm guilty. I had my
Yeah, I was gonna
MCL torn
say
that way.
it's really not. You watch the best Rex tape, and it's not hard to see why those things happen. We just get put in these compromised positions, and then our upper and lower leg muscles, like the muscles around our thighs and the things surrounding the knee, they just aren't able to hold everything in place. So like, I mean, we can talk about tendon strength, and we can talk about like muscle density and all that stuff, but like at the bottom line, like they're you again, strength is that low hanging fruit for building up resistance against those things.
Hey, Tyler, will you look this up? Will you look up? I'm pretty sure there's a study done on percentages of non-contact ACL tears and imbalances between hamstring and quadricep strength. There's like I read a study, and I can't remember what it was. And if you can't find it, Tyler, no big deal. But there was a percentage of that they found that people that had non-contact ACL tears, the reason like was a high percentage was due to overactive quadriceps and not enough hamstring strength. And so we see that a lot because the majority of people, I think, are quad dominant, and we lack hamstring strength because we haven't been taught proper movement patterns, right? So training those hamstrings, training those quads is going to add to strengthen the muscle and be able to protect those joints a lot longer. So Logan, I think you were the one that was telling me about, you had another good analogy for this. Like when you build stronger muscles, it acts as something for you.
Oh man, I've been on an analogy roll this week, and now that you asked me for one, I'm gonna space it. I'm gonna drop
I
it.
think you're talking about it being like a shield, like it is your armor. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
For what
it's
you're absorbing
100% gonna
back,
be.
reducing the likelihood of getting sprains, strains, whatever.
That's exactly right. One of the other studies, it's not the one that you're talking about. There's hundreds of them, maybe thousands of them out there about non-contact injuries. The one that I read, I remember, was specifically with NFL running backs, and it was for those that could back squat, 2 times their own body weight. Those that could back squat 2 times their own body weight, the non-contact knee injuries went down like a dramatic percentage. It was like 60% less chance of having some sort of knee injury. And so the durability, it is the muscle strength, but for me, it's the elasticity, which is actually a
Mhm.
good thing. We want the elastic tendons, right? Like we want to build that, and that's a response and adaptation
Will
from
you just
strength training.
define elasticity real quick? In
Elasticity,
simple
so
terms?
obviously, like, our muscles are attached to the skeleton through tendons, right? Like, so we have
Mhm.
these tendons, and what we want is we want them to be stiff. It sounds bad, but we actually want them to be pretty rigid. If you've got a real floppy rubber band, like, you're probably not going to be able to shoot it very far. But if you've got one that's a little bit tighter, right, that you're going to be able to, so we're not talking about so tight that you're going to, but we want that stiffness. It's actually a good thing because it's what's going to provide explosive power, right? It's
Mhm.
something that is,
It's
so,
more.
and
It's
that's
more. It can be more reactive because there's no
more
slack.
reactive.
Yes.
Exactly right. And that's going to come from, it's one of the adaptations that you will get from strength training, is building that elasticity, or that tendon stiffness.
Heck yeah. Tyler, did you find anything, buddy?
Yeah, so there was a study done on women soccer players
Mhm.
with ACL injuries. They said the ones that more commonly had an ACL injury were more quad dominant. They had their quad strength was way over their hamstring
Mhm.
strength, and even that compared to, like, when they're comparing it to men, if they have a lower, if their hamstring strength is stronger than their quad strength, they're less likely to tear an ACL.
Money. And dude, you are more susceptible to tearing an ACL. It's just
How
what the
dare you be
science is.
sexist
I
like that?
know. I know. Well, I'm not. It's just in the science. It's in the book. Read. But
Read a book, man.
that just brings to light, dude, how many goat tires have you talked to that have had multiple ACL replacements by the age of 17 or 16?
Yes. Yeah.
It's unreal. And I hate to be the Grim Reaper here, but that's going to affect your whole life. Like, at a very young age, every time we surgically do something to the body, we are no longer the same body. It is different. And so it's an adaptation to that new body. And yeah, you can have a great life and do all that. But if you don't strengthen everything around it, you are going to continue to run into those problems. And there's only so many of those times that you can have that surgery and it not seriously affect your quality of life. So I worry about these young girls in goat tying and seeing all those injuries because they're riding high power horses. They're getting off at a high rate of speed, and most of these girls have no business doing it because they have no foundation to absorb any of that force and then turn that into power because they are not strong. And so, all of you parents listening, if you have young athletes, get them training, get them moving, teach them proper movement patterns, do them justice by helping them get strong and setting them up, making them durable so they have a much more successful career at whatever they do in the arena. But if you got a young kid and they're constantly injured, take a break. Go away from rodeo for a minute, go to the strength training, work on ground stuff, groundwork, whatever, but get away from the high speed work. And if you took, dude, and it sounds outrageous, take a year. If you took a year and focused on that person's riding abilities, their groundwork, and getting them as strong as possible, their entire life would be different after. That's facts.
Yes.
And it sounds outrageous, but I'm telling you, this is a long game. Rodeo is not, for some people, it is a short game, just a weekend thing. But if it is your long game, you have a year to do this. You do. And if you're young, you definitely do. It doesn't feel like it, but I promise it is not going to change anything. No one's going to get that far ahead. If anything, you're going to get further ahead feeling like you're doing less. And I've seen it in the professional ranks. I've seen it. One of my steer wrestlers, man, been in the NFR a bunch of times. Been at the heels of a world title multiple times. Took a half a year off to get himself right, to get strong, to get mentally right. Comes back and is freaking wrecking it.
Yep.
No one else does that, and a lot of those people are in the same exact spot where he left.
And that's the thing, is like the sooner you do it, the better. Like, we
Yes.
forget about the people that started off that way, like the Rockers and the Caseys. Like, we just look at the success they've had since, and we forget about the time that they were holding back from entering above their head because they were still developing their bodies as athletes first before jumping in the deep end.
Yep.
Hui has the best gear because it's tough, it's durable, it withstands the test of what we put it through, and that is why I am a big supporter of Hui brands. Guys, from hats, apparel, whatever you need, they've got you covered. They are the perfect blend of rodeo style and athletic performance. You can check them out at huibrands.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving, all one word, is going to save you a little bit at checkout. Y'all, if you're having trouble sleeping or you've got really achy muscles, Power Pro CBD has teamed up with us to bring you their tinctures and their warming lotions. Guys, these have been a crucial part of my nightly routine. Y'all can check them out at PowerPro, PWRpro.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving, all one word, to save you a good chunk at discount. And you're going to have like a quote unquote, kind of like a, it's like a baptism by fire kind of deal, like where you have to be that real with yourself and burn what is going on and restart. And the quicker you do that, the easier that is going to be to do, because the longer you let that stuff build, the harder that conversation and that look in the mirror is going to be to do what you really need to do. So if you can do this at an early age, or, even if you're not at a young point in your career, just don't go any further. If you need to take a break and stop and reset, I promise it will help you so much.
You have to be able to look at the big picture, and that's where the parents step in. And what's more important to you, it's not for everybody, it's not about the NFR, but what's more important to you, is it one NFR qualification or 3 Yeti Junior World Finals trophy saddles? You know what I'm saying? Like, which one is more important
to get entered in?
Yeah, because you might not have the opportunity for both, and so
No.
taking that time when you're younger. And I understand in the goat tying, it's a completely different animal, because you age out at 22.
Yes,
When you
do.
graduate college, or 23,
Yep.
maybe if you're on your master's. When you graduate, that's a hard decision. I would still stand by the fact that Doug stated that you would be better off at 14 years old to take a year off completely from goat tying and strength train and come back, and you would still actually spring yourself forward over the course of your 23 years of, goat tying.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you
Yeah.
stop goat tying though. Like you
No.
still do the things. You
Yeah.
just you don't go to the competitions. You're not
Yes.
you're not trying to beat your fastest time every time.
Yes.
You're focusing on the fundamentals, and you're developing yourself, and you're becoming a master at your craft. And so
It's like
you're
one time a
breaking
week
it
you're
down.
running 100%.
Yeah, you're tying the dummy. You're riding your horse. You're getting off your horse, but
Going to
it's
the
not
gym.
full.
You're
You're
getting
going to the
strong.
gym. Yes.
Yes.
You're just not
all
going
of the
full
things.
speed in competition too
all
many
the
times.
time.
Yeah.
And at a young age, we see that a lot as well. And that's mostly because the kid wants to go, the parent is the coach, and not throwing shade at parents, but they aren't coaches. They just don't know better about the balance between rest and volume, and like how that should all work. How many sets is a good amount of sets? How many sets is too much? It's all individual. It's going to be different for every person, so you've got to be smart about all those things. And even in the junior bareback riding, the pony riding, like those kids are not strong enough to do this. And what you're really doing is just, they're staying on and they're winning money. That's cool, but you are developing the worst fundamentals you could ever do. And it sucks to say, but it's a huge disservice to the kid when you start moving him into the upper ranks of high school rodeo, junior rodeo, where they're getting on real size horses that actually buck. And all they've been able and taught to do is hang on for dear life, because they don't have a foundation of strength, power, or agility, because they're really young. And Logan was talking about 14 years old. What's going on in between 12 and 14, Logan, and the kid?
Yeah, it's typically peak height velocity. I think maybe 12 to 15 or something for boys.
So
yeah.
Just real quick, as strength and conditioning coaches, what is our advice from 12 to 14 when it comes to just lifting?
Well, I mean, right then we're really focusing on them just learning how to move their bodies through space. Their body is adapting every year; it's growing every year, so they're actually going to have a longer reach in 6 months than they do right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're having to learn how to move their body through space. It's not as much, not that it's dangerous for a 13-year-old to lift weights, but it's not as much about what's your 1 rep max bench press at 14 as it is how do we move our bodies through space, what's our stability like, and we can still build strength by not overdoing it at that age.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And this is so crucial for any young athlete and any parent listening. 12 to 14 is peak height velocity. This is where they are growing the most. This is where their growth plates are open, their tendons are stretching, their muscles are growing, everything is shifting. If you start introducing traumatic injuries like ACL reconstructive surgeries at that age, we're just asking for problems in the future. You've got to build that foundation, and it's just it's we can't help it. That's just biology. Like, that's how it works. That's how the body is, and that's not a common thing that people know to think about unless you're a strength and conditioning coach or someone that's in this field. So I think saying it here is huge, because hopefully it'll open some eyes to like, hey, you don't have to stop doing what you're doing, but you have to adjust for what your body is doing and growing, and you can still compete, but it has to be managed. What about recovery time? Having stronger muscles, stronger legs, do you think that that helps increase your recovery time, like recover quicker
For
from
No
sure.
doubt.
lifting sessions? Or cool.
Yeah,
Me too.
it's
Why?
absolutely. I mean, just think about even just somebody getting started. You know, at Odessa College the other day, first workout of the day, we did some goblet squats. They were not super heavy, but relatively for those individuals, they were heavier than they probably would have just randomly selected. And it was 3 sets of 8 reps. Wrecked the next day, the majority of them, right? Like they like have, and it wasn't anything crazy, but it's because it's a new stimulus. So I was explaining to them, hey, if you'll stay consistent with this and continue, you'll actually bounce back much faster, and you can use progressive overload. But the stronger you are, typically speaking, the stronger you are, the more familiar you are with taxing your central nervous system and building strength, the quicker you bounce back from things. I mean, any of us can, go any lower body exercise that we do on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. We could go in there. It's probably not going to make us super sore. Now, throw in a random, like we talked about a few episodes back, where I was like, oh, I'll just do split squats at 135, right? I haven't done split squats with a barbell on my back in who knows how many months. Wrecked, right? So the more that you're training, the faster that you are going to bounce back from not just the workouts, but also in the arena.
Dude, I even noticed my upper body getting less sore when my lower body is like feeling good, and I'm working it consistently. And I think it's because, and I haven't done this in a long time, but I'm thinking back to my prior training when I used to do like 90% upper body and 1 day lower body. And my upper body obviously be trash because the volume, but you're having to use so much more to get the weight up with your upper body if you're not activating that lower body. Like when I'm doing presses, I am squeezing my quads, my butt, like everything, my hips, everything I can to press. And when I don't do that, I notice a drastic difference in my ability to press, and my recovery, I feel like, is just so much better when I'm focusing on obviously the full picture, but the legs never go anywhere. Even if I'm not feeling it, I'm at least getting 2 days of legs in, and it might be just 1 day of 20 minutes every minute on the minute doing some squats. Really simple, but I'm always focused on those legs because this is our foundation. And I'm not a rodeo athlete anymore. I'm getting old, like we just said. Got my AARP card in the mail yesterday. It's getting real. Got some more gray hairs. It's crazy. Anyways, old people fall.
Yep.
That's how you get hurt. And obviously 35 is not old. I'm not saying I'm going to fall, but I'm thinking about the future. And the one thing that's going to prevent me from doing any of the things I want to in the future is not being able to balance, not being able to stay stable, not being able to be strong enough to do it. And the one thing that can prevent all that is training my lower body. And so I'm forever going to be someone that squats and deadlifts. No matter what, I'll be the 95-year-old guy all hunched over doing Jefferson curls, whatever. I'll
Not
call them deadlifts, but they'll look like Jefferson curls.
Yeah.
not to mention the recovery time from injury, right? Like, so
Oh,
say
man.
something does happen and you have to have a surgery and you're going through PT. If you're in really, really good shape up to that surgery, you're strong, you'll bounce back faster. You will be able to come back from a surgery or from a major injury much, much quicker because you have done the work on the front end of being in good shape.
Yeah, almost all of my clients, like unanimously, that do have traumatic injuries, because even just because you are training and working out doesn't mean that those big injuries aren't going to happen, because we play a dangerous game. They're still going to happen. But every single one of them will call me afterwards and be like, "Hey, the surgeon was super impressed with the muscle that I have, and they said it would be so much worse if I hadn't been doing this, and now they're projecting my recovery time to be 2 to 3 weeks less than what the standard protocol is." Every time. It's like that every single time. So it's going to prevent worse injuries from happening, or the big injuries could have been even worse than what they were, and it's going to get you back on track a lot faster.
Dude, that getting strong, even if you are injured going into surgery, the best thing you can do is get a strong foundation and get that strength up. And if you're going through an ACL, say you're going to an ACL surgery, you can still isolate this other leg and move it and get strength, which is, we've found. What's that called? The
Reciprocity.
yes.
Cross education.
Thank you.
Cross-education.
Cross education. Being able training one extremity while the other is injured has been shown to maintain the strength in that leg and reduce atrophy, which is that's what we're fighting the whole time when we're having injuries is atrophy. You're losing that muscle, right? So if we can get as strong as possible and as stable as possible in those joints, ligaments, muscles before they cut on you, dude, your recovery is going to be insane. And my back is the number one example for me in this. And they told me, we don't know what will happen. You're the youngest person we ever operated on. But what I will tell you is if you get as strong as possible, we're going to have a much better outlook. That's all I did. Got really, really strong. And I showed up and he's like, dude, whoa. Like, you took this for real. And he's like, I've never even cut on someone that's in your kind of shape. I don't know what's going to be like. And I was back in 6 months instead of a year, but still took the year, So strength, lower body strength, the foundation of absolutely everything. If you want a big upper body, build your lower body. If you want to be rank in the arena in whatever event you do, you need a strong lower body. If you want to have a good, healthy, long knife, you're going to need a strong lower body as well. Don't ever stop training that lower body. The last thing I want to touch on here is the benefits you get of your mobility when you are doing strength training for your lower body, right? We don't talk about that. People don't talk about those benefits a whole lot, but you focus on the movement, the quality of the rep, your ability to maintain mobility throughout this full range of motion, be strong in those end ranges of motion, priceless.
Yeah, you're talking about using some tempo. So if you're doing your ego lifting and doing a really heavy back squat and you're getting half the way down, you're not going to be working a whole lot through your range of motion, and you're not going to be working a whole lot on your mobility. Now you take a dumbbell and you add 2 seconds slowly down, and then a 2 or 3 second hold at the bottom. You're down as far as you can go. Hold at the bottom. Man, we're opening up those hips. You're kind of getting you are getting your range of motion increased, but you're also becoming strong at those end ranges of motion, which is the principle of mobility. And that is going to lead to mitigating some of those injuries that you could potentially run into in the arena.
Absolutely. And that's where most of these injuries that happen are in these end ranges, right? Where we're not strong enough to maintain and we sprain, strain, or tear. And so really, man, strength training, and then especially these lower body strength training, is all of the things that we've just listed. Like, it's irreplaceable. You have to do it. And I want to jump into they're going to hear or have heard all of our examples of exercises for this a million times prior to this already, because it's all that we stick to the same stuff. The same stuff works, man. It's easy. But let's talk about training techniques for lower body strength. Compound lifts.
Leg extensions.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Just
leg press, 1,000-pound leg presses, baby.
Sorry.
What do you think?
Not myself. Compound lifts, like you said. So typically speaking, deadlifts and squats are going to be the bread and butter there. Learning how to, you don't have to use a barbell. Obviously, like if you're just getting started in resistance training, using dumbbells is going to be, it's a little bit more forgiving on the form. And so it's something that you can definitely kind of get your feet wet with resistance training with some dumbbells. You can load a barbell much heavier. And so as you progress through learning how to back squat, or do some variation of a barbell deadlift is going to be important for using progressive overload, slowly getting heavier as you become more accustomed to the weight. But those are the bread and butter. This summertime, I don't get to work out a whole lot, just like you. Probably all of us are crazy busy in the summertime. If I walk in the gym and haven't been in a week, I'm going to squat. Like, I really want to bench. But I'm going to squat because I know that it's the biggest bang for the buck. Or a deadlift, building that lower body strength. Those are going to be your two main lifts for sure.
Heck yeah. And then I would say make sure you touch on the unilateral stuff. So isolating those legs. This is going to be huge for eliminating, strength deficiencies. Like we were talking about that quad to hamstring strength ratio. Isolating these legs, and you will find that one is weaker than the other very quickly, is a great way to kind of give yourself, it's going to equal that playing field for the strength, and it's going to make those bilateral movements much more effective when you're doing them, because we've talked about before, body's super good at finding workarounds right? So if we are having a strength deficiency, one side is stronger than the other, when you're doing two-legged movements, that other side is naturally going to find a way to work harder to get you up and make up for whatever deficiency or mobility issue or whatever's going on in that other side. So these unilateral exercises, lunges, step ups, side lunges, lateral lunges, whatever you want to call them, are going to be fantastic for targeting the specific muscle groups. And then also helps you build that balance when we're on single leg. It's huge, that unilateral power that's essential for the entire sport of rodeo. In rodeo, we are never 2 feet at the same time. We're not bunny hopping down the rope. We're not, you're in this lunge position all the time when you are going down. So it's directly sport specific and is going to help you increase that strength and stability when you're competing. What about plyometrics?
This is something that's really underutilized. And then when it is utilized, I think that it is misused. I don't think that it's applied the most appropriately. We typically think of box jumps. And for a long time, the most common application of box jumps would be in a CrossFit situation, which is fine, but it really becomes more about cardio when you're doing, 10 box jumps on the minute, every minute or whatever. It's not really about max force every rep. And that's what we want to think about with plyometrics.
Yes.
I typically start guys with very, very simple exercises. We're not jumping for height. We're not jumping for distance. We're literally just learning the mechanics of jumping. And that's also going to add to that tendon stiffness and building durability in the joints. But even just like simple pogo jumps and stuff like that is a great place to start on plyometrics. But they're very, very important. As you progress up the line, that is the plyometric training is one of the key ways to build explosive power in the lower body.
Yeah, and if you want to have repeat power, like you've got to be starting with those things like pogo jumps, like being able to have the tendon strength and the reactivity to be able to bounce and keep going like over and over and repeat that. But yeah, as far as like power stuff, like I love box jumps, and you always, like you said, everybody's mentality around it is like, oh, I need to do this fast and as fast as I possibly can, and it's that always I always have to put a lot more effort into like coaching and instruction on box jumps, because you have to explain that, like, hey, we're doing this to build power, not wear you out and make you tired.
The primary use of a box jump is just to soften the landing. You're jumping as high as you possibly can, but you're just not falling that far. You're just falling to a box. So it's a little bit easier on the joints as far as the landing goes. So it's a great plyometric exercise when used appropriately.
Yeah, you'll put like 2 reps by 4 sets in there, and somebody's like, "Oh, I did
with
all
2
8
minutes
reps
of
one
rest.
time." Yeah,
With
and I'm like,
minutes
"No,
of
don't."
rest,
Yeah, you need to be resting.
No,
in
like
between.
literally 2
Yeah.
yeah, like that's the point, is to drive the power. Each rep, you should be getting max muscle contraction out of that.
The
If I do
last rep
5
should
reps,
be
I'm toasted. Like
yeah,
my
exactly.
legs, quads are ripped.
The last rep should be just as strong as the first rep was.
Something I want to throw in there, and I just wrote a blog post on this. You guys can go to the website and look at our blog and read about it. But I really am big about, before we start the jumping, you have to know how to land. You have to know how to be able to get that force and recreate that force through the ground. Otherwise, we're skipping a step. And so people think about the jump squats, think about the box squats, all the cool, sexy stuff. Yes, but there's a foundation. You have to be able to land and develop that force before you can start jumping, because once we jump, we have to come down, y'all. The landing is just as important. And so it sounds backwards, but start with landing drills, depth drops, anything like
or even
that.
just snap downs. You
Yes,
wouldn't
snap
drive
downs
a
are number
sports
one.
car
Yes.
without brakes.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
you wouldn't get behind the seat of a sports car if you knew it didn't have any brakes. Those landing mechanics are your brakes. And then once you got a good firm set of brakes, now we can start to apply the gas.
I actually just made a post about that. The whole thing, the whole first step of power. No one liked it, but if you're interested, you can you can go watch it on my Instagram. I put a lot of time into it. I was proud of it.
Welcome to my life.
So, but yeah, it's a really important thing to get that landing first. And then, yes, you have to have that lower body strength to work on the plyometrics, which are huge when we're starting to develop power. And then agility, another part of this, improving your quickness, your responsiveness. I don't have a ton of my guys do agility unless we're in person, and then, or unless the sport needs it. And mostly I'm talking about like bullfighters is pretty much the majority of my agility work. I do some small things with other athletes, especially off season, just to keep, it's good for you. But what are your guys' approaches with agility work, and who
It's
do you use it for?
it is so hard to do remote.
It's
It is
so
so
hard.
hard to do
Yes.
remote because the definition of agility, it's just change of direction, but there's an outside stimulus that is providing you, and you have to make a quick split-second decision on which way to go or something to do, right? And so it's so hard to do remotely. I do think that there's benefits that transfer to all events because you have to make split-second decisions. And so training that central nervous system and the reactivity to be able to like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? I do think that there's importance for all rodeo events, but it is if we can find a good way to do it remotely, let me know. I have not.
Cheaply. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
there's
Without
the only
yes.
thing I found is the buzzers, the lights,
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
and it's not it's a big it's an investment. Like, you are
Yep.
spending a few
Yeah.
$100s to get those,
Yep.
and it comes with its own program. So, like, again, with what we're doing remotely, it's not our bread and butter. When we have
Yep.
in-person sessions and we have the right athletes that already have these foundations of strength and power, we use it. And again, it's mostly with our advanced bullfighters.
Yeah.
But a really good sport-specific way for agility, I think, is like the guys with the wheelbarrow.
Buddy drills, like
Yeah,
things
buddy
where when you have somebody else that's helping you, and like the using the wheelbarrow for bullfighting or something like that, like that's the best way to do it. Or just like shuffling back and forth and mirroring somebody that's across from you and having to react to them. That's the best way. But yeah, like you said, it's pretty limited when you're remote. And a lot of times my go-to, and I know it's not the best, but it's at least something, is just having them to react like off of a mark on the ground or a cone. So like a shuffle to a sprint, or a sprint
Mhm.
to a stop and shuffle, or something like that. And then, like I said, it's not necessarily something they can predict it a little bit, but I think it's better than nothing.
It's way better than nothing. Absolutely. No, that's a really good. I don't know why I haven't implemented that before. That's a really good style and way to do it, dude. I want to quickly touch on core strength, and that's not like directly our core, but some core exercises. And I say core, but I'm really talking about your hip flexors and everything surrounding that lower body that is really tied to uh, the muscles that have to work during squatting, deadlifting, anything that's lower body. If those ligaments are weak and imbalanced, we are going to run into big problems. And we see this, I think, more than the muscle imbalance in our sport is the weakness in ligaments. And maybe it is because the weakness in muscle as well, the lack of preparation in their strength training. But you have to do the small work to get the big bucks with the strength work and the power work. And when I'm talking about the hip flexor group, your abductors, your adductors of your hips, the frontal hip flexors exercises, basically. So what I mean by this, say we do our squats, our deadlifts, I'm going to do these before I do a squat or deadlift. So like a primer. And I do like a straight-legged mini band isometric hold for my hip flexors, like a 20-second hold. I'll do 2 sets of that. And really, I'm activating that core, making sure I'm getting good pelvic tilt and control there, and then really activating those hip flexors. So when I go to squat and they need to do what they need to do, they're turned on. Banded, clamshells, anything like that to activate the abductors. What are some other things you guys use that they're core exercises but are more or less lower body accessories?
I really like Vernon Griffith has a trunk stability drill that we've been utilizing a lot,
I love
and
that.
yeah, with the plank followed immediately by the dead bug, and
Mhm.
I do that almost before every workout. It's just phenomenal for tying in. Typically, when we're doing jumps of some kind, especially for distance, broad jumps, those kind of things, we see some not injury, but people complain of soreness in their like very, very low abs, right? And really that just comes from a little bit of weakness there, but we want to strengthen that, prime that, like you were saying. So that's one of my favorites is it's a very specific plank and followed by a dead bug. Well, there's some very specific cues there, really just doing it correctly that gets me, I mean, it gets my core set up and ready to roll.
Absolutely, dude. Those primers are so good for everything. Whether it's even if I wake up sore in the morning, bro, like I'm just tight, I'll go do active planks and active dead bugs. And I'm boom, better, all better. No, I love those two examples. You got anything different for that, Paul?
No, not really. Like that's really a good one. But I guess I would add in like some side planks or something so that we're working the abductors, like anything that's working that isolates the glute a little bit more. Those are definitely go-tos for me.
Dude, speaking of adductors, like groin area, I've been using sliders a lot, little discs, the little sliding discs, and doing like adductor slides and rock back slides. And it is
They're so spicy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It gets
Yeah.
real spicy. But I've been really enjoying that and can feel the improvement in my mobility more than anything. I mean, the strength is obviously coming, but I was so not mobile there for a minute. And I've been doing that for about a week and a half, and I feel really good. I've also been utilizing Kelly Starrett's stuff. I've went again, like I said, I've been feeling really bad. This is how you know I feel bad. I went and did his mobility test to find like my personal plan and find out how I could help myself. But if you guys don't know who Kelly Starrett is, I don't expect most of you to, but he's like the OG when it comes to fascia work. And he started way back when CrossFit started, but it's just that recovery side that we don't talk about enough. And you have to do all the things like we've talked about. You've put in the strength work. You've done all of the exercise that we just talked about. Now you have to help your body recover, and you have to work that fascial system too to help it relax a little bit. And a lot of the times we just don't focus on that. You know, people think about foam rolling. Yes, that can help, but it's not our go-to. I've been working with a lot with lacrosse balls, really like textured, big softball almost type, and working on these specific areas. And I'm not going to lie, the first 3 days, I feel like I've been more sore, but this is day 4, and I'm all of a sudden it's kind of like, whoa, my body is kind of opening up. So I just want to, that has nothing to do with what we talked about today, but it kind of does in the sense that you have to pay attention to all of it and to get the most bang out of the buck. If you are working on your strength and not working on the recovery side, you're leaving strength on the table and leaving performance on the table, because your body could do a lot more if you were keeping it primed and able.
You won't get strong if you don't recover.
That's a fact, dude. And like I've said on my broadcast channel on Instagram, you can go follow along. And these days I've been feeling shitty. There's 3 or 4 days where I prioritized sleep and didn't work out. I went and took an hour nap because I know that if I push, I might mentally feel better for 20 minutes, but the long run of things is not going to help. But sorry, rabbit holes all day, baby. Hopefully this was helpful for somebody listening. If you guys have any questions about lower body strength, any of the programs that we have available, if you want to set up a free consult with one of us, just swing by our website, www.championlivingfitness.com, click the sign up now button. It's a free consultation. You get to talk to one of our coaches, make sure we, find you the right program. If you're interested, find the right coach that's good for you and move you closer to your goals. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later. Hey guys, we got some exciting news for you. If you're listening to this, we know that you're committed to upping your game in the arena. And we're teaming up with the Rodeo Now app to help you do just that. The Rodeo Now app allows you to record, upload, and catalog your rides and runs, review your performances in slow motion, and our favorite feature, if you're not familiar with your stock draw, you can search your animal by name to get all the intel you need to make your next ride a winning one. Join the Rodeo Revolution today and download the Rodeo Now app for free. It's available in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Lots of rodeo gear companies are coming out, but not all are equal. Beastmaster is really setting the bar when it comes to the equipment that is built for durability and designed for success in the arena. You guys can check them out at beastmasterrodeo.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving24. That's ChampionLiving24. Going to save you a little bit at checkout.
If you want to learn more about our coaches and program options, make sure to swing over to our website at www.championlivingfitness.com. You can fill out the Become an Athlete form to set up your free consultation and have all your questions answered by a coach.